All right. Happy Tuesday, everyone. We have a lot on the agenda. Tesla's master plan part 4 came out. A bit of a disappointment, potentially. We'll talk through that. We have Edmund saying the Model Y is the best car they've driven in 2025. Our energy secretary is sadly making me wish for the energy policies of the Biden administration. A lot on the today on the docket today. How you doing, Bradford?
Doing good, and I'm trying to do what not to do, which is what Chris Wright is talking about with as energy secretary. But I was surprised by the whole Edmunds thing. But let's get in the master plan part 4 because I feel like that's the biggest news Tesla wise today.
Yeah, it probably is. So, when you texted me yesterday, oh, Tesla dropped Master Plan Part 4, I was, kind of expecting I'd have a bit of reading to go through. Here's my markup of Master Plan Part 3, for the record. It took me pretty much like 2 whole days to kind of go through here, understand what they were saying. Master Plan Part 4 is done in like 2 minutes. It was a little easier.
Elon said this one would be more concise, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing to make it more concise, but in my mind, it was more of like a quick blog post of what we want to do without any specifics. Now, he did say in a response to Dave Lee, I think it was, that he'll try to get a bit more. Yeah, fair enough. We'll add more specifics. But as I was reading through there, like there was a lot to like in there, saying sustainable abundance and that whole thing. But I got to the end of it, and I was like, well, we already knew all that. It's like, what was the actual plan? Even in the master plan part 2, I think it was, there were specific estimates of I think we're going to need to get to, I think it was 6 billion miles to get to the level of safety needed for human, human level safety. So there were some measurable metrics like that had been really thought through. And to me, this just sort of seemed like, ask Grok to write a blog post outlining Tesla's vision, and it was just like, that's what you got. There was no tactics, no specifics in there. So I don't know. I walked away a little disappointed, to be honest with you. But what was your initial reaction after reading it?
Yeah, I like that they started talking more about the concept of abundance and sustainable abundance. I thought going into this, Tesla would make their mission about a sustainable life, just because what adding Optimus does, and sustainable energy and also autonomy, sustainable transport, affordable transport. So all these things I think make life more sustainable, but maybe that's going to be SpaceX's mission, accelerating sustainable life, so we get a backup plan and go to Mars. So for everything on Earth, a sustainable abundance, I think, was a great introduction to the topic. I did like that they talked about meritocracy. Like, we're going to give you these tools, but it's up to you what to do with those tools.
I will say I also like that they were speaking about having the benefits accrue to all of humanity. This is one thing I'm pretty concerned about on the AI front. I absolutely believe that it will create a future of abundance. I think it's a generational wealth creation opportunity, which is why I think it's so exciting to be in the investing world at this particular moment in human history. I think it is that kind of epic of an opportunity that we're sitting in. But I think it also has the potential, and I think it's probably fair to say it will it will likely massively accelerate wealth inequality. Now, if everyone has a amazing future and you can literally get anything you want for free because there's the services are so abundant and cheap that it doesn't matter, then maybe that might help placate it. I think that's kind of where Elon's mind is. But I will say I'm genuinely worried about the potential political unrest that would come from a potentially 10 or 100x increase in wealth inequality. Even if the absolute levels for everybody massively rise, what history has shown is that it's the inequality diverging that actually leads to political instability. So that's something I'm a bit worried about.
Yeah, so that was mentioned in there that this is not necessarily going to be the smoothest transition. That
Hmm.
will be some lumps in there, and I agree with you. But it didn't really say. I don't think we know how we're going to solve them until we get there. Um, and I do agree. It was a bit vague. I agree with Dave Lee. It feels like something that was written by AI, but then you didn't go back and say, hey, like add more detail to this. I want more detail. Um, so we do write some things with AI, and we use that in with our business and some other things. So I'm familiar with this. I'm not accusing this of happening, but that's the feel it has, is a little too vague. It's like when I first started using AI and I wanted to make something more diplomatic. So I tend to
Mm.
be honest, maybe sometimes too brutally honest or too upfront. So I asked AI to make an email more diplomatic, but then it stripped all the
The
specific.
content, yeah.
So then it was like too vague, but it was diplomatic.
Yeah, and that there's definitely some value to being a bit more specific with this sort of thing. I think even just the name master plan wasn't quite right in this situation, because it was more like a strategic vision or something like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
To me it seemed like day one of having like McKinsey on site at like a corporate like get together, like, where do we want to be in 10 years? Well, like, imagine there's like sustainable abundance. Like, yeah, I like that. But like,
Mhm.
okay, that's like the first step. But then from there, what are the tactics? What are the milestones that are measurable? So to me, it was just missing some of that, that vision, which was, I don't know, a bit frustrating. Honestly, I've been a little disappointed with the last two master plans, because even like, I think you could argue that the master plan part 3 had like maybe too many details, because so few people actually
Yeah.
understood what was in there. But it was also my gripe with that was that it was not Tesla specific at all. Like it was
Mhm.
a humanity energy master plan. It wasn't really a
Yeah.
Tesla master plan. In fact, a lot of the stuff that was in there didn't relate to Tesla at all. Like there was a good chunk on hydrogen storage. There was a lot on just different things that Tesla has shown zero interest in actually working towards. So I don't know. I think Elon sometimes just gets in his head like, oh, well, just like, I want to paint this vision for a sustainable and abundant Earth, and so let's just call that master plan part whatever the next one is. But the master plan part 3 was not Tesla specific enough, and then number 4 just had like zero specific details at all. So I don't know. I think it's lost a bit of magic with these last two master plans.
Yeah.
So maybe from there we can pivot to a company that we think is actually laying out a very ambitious and well thought out master plan, essentially, for how to implement AI at your own company. This was
Yeah.
a blog post Shai Winiger from Lemonade, one of the co-founders of Lemonade, put out, which I thought was like absolutely on point. So a lot of people might remember from last week, there was this MIT study. I think was it MIT? Yeah, it was MIT, that basically said that 95% of AI implementations in the workplace just like don't work. And I think that's not surprising at all, because there's a lot of like incumbent interests that will fight against this. There's like an immune response against like drastic changes. So just like highlighting a few things, like what Shai is basically saying here is like, your best bet is to burn it all down and start from scratch. So like one of the ones that really jumped off at me was like, fire your entire tech, product, and compliance teams. They're probably
Mhm.
too risk averse and focused on maintaining the status quo. Like that's a bitter pill to swallow. And like, yeah, I think most people would say 95% of companies aren't going to be willing to like do that. Terminate 90% of your vendor contracts is the next one, number 4 there. There's not much you can do with a pile of ancient tools where you are going. And
Mhm.
I think that's right. Like, the more you're like leaning on these
Yep.
crutches that were built, 10 years ago, the harder it's going to be for you to actually pivot to get all your data where you need it to be, to build an application layer on top of that single source of data, to do the types of things that like you really need to do if you're going to truly be embracing AI, instead of just like using it as a band-aid for like one particular thing without fundamentally changing the DNA of your company. So maybe we can end it with number 10, which is deploy product updates multiple times a day for the next decade, which is just like wild to think about that level of iteration and how that like the cumulative impacts of that over a decade would really stack up. But I love the vision that paints. So it says build, measure, learn relentlessly. So there's a lot more in there. I'd highly encourage people to go and read the entire post. But I think when you actually read that, you're like, yeah, most companies are not going to do this, which makes finding the ones that are, I think, all the more attractive as investment opportunities and also as case studies about what you can do where you are, at least if you have the authority within your own business. So maybe I'll pause my rant there and just say, like, how did this strike you, Bradford? And I know you've been thinking about similar things in our own business, and maybe now's not the best venue to talk about what we're thinking on this front, but this really resonated for me.
Yeah, so I just outlined a vision for our business, and there's Shai's X handle there, so you can check that out. 1G, not 2. So yeah, check that out. I laid out a vision for our business where we're gonna hardcore automate a lot of things using AI. So we want to grab all our data on our clients that we already have, put it in one database, and have multiple systems that can access that data for our teams to use internally, but also for us to use between us and our clients in communication and servicing them. So, we're not just making one database for one use case. We're making one database for multiple use cases. And where a lot of, and what Shai was responding to was the MIT study that showed that only 5% of businesses got economic value out of their implementation of AI. So, there are a lot of mistakes that businesses made. One of the big mistakes was they went for some big, sexy project and didn't consult the people who would actually be using the software. These are common mistakes that consultants would avoid, I would think, but these were the kind of mistakes that were made. Or, they didn't start off with a minimum viable product or a proof of concept. They created a huge thing at first. There were mistakes like that, or still being bogged down by committees. So you really have to be agile in order to greatly evolve your business and quickly using AI to code for you or to help you analyze data.
Yeah. So this comment here really resonates with me. Partnering with Palantir is a much better option than in-house development for most legacy companies. That's the easier fix. Your committee can approve that and get it done, and that will be a lot easier. And then this one actually, where'd it go? Agreed that implementing AI is hard to get right. I think if you're a huge company, it's almost impossible to do this. I think with the company our size, just over a dozen employees, you are the owner of the business, and it's very easy for you to just set the vision and say go and make the hiring decisions. If we're a lot larger organization and people had little fiefdoms that were, they were threatened by what you were doing. I mean, Shai stuff is very provocative, fire 3 separate teams, that's going to be a lot harder to push forward. And then if you have the balls to actually do that, then you've got to actually implement a product that was worth the cost or the disruption to doing that, which is the political risk of doing that. If you're the CEO drawing a couple $1 million a year, it's I'd rather just hire McKinsey or Palantir or something like that, and dip my foot into the water rather than risk a botched transformation of the company by really leaning into this thing, which, by the way, might be necessary for the company to survive the next 30 years, but over the next 5-10 years, which is as far as my timeline for my career is, like I'll go the safer option and call Palantir or McKinsey, or just like try a chat bot or something that it uses the latest LLM. So I think there's going to be a lot of this. I think a lot of companies are going to just like flail about in this space for a while and say, yeah, we've tried AI. We didn't get a lot of value for that. Like I actually fully expect in a lot of earnings calls, we're going to hear that sort of thing in like the next couple of years. Like, we've really discovered that our legacy processes are really quite efficient. And so we're going to lean into our strengths. Like, they're going to say stuff like that. Like, meanwhile, Lemonade, this tiny little company, is going to go from like, 0.5% market share to 1 to 2. And then like, it'll be a problem by the time they're 5 or 10% market share. But by that time, the CEO making the decisions today is going to be gone.
Yeah, for the legacy company.
For the legacy company, yeah.
That's right. Yeah, so if you're a larger business, I think what you need is you need a business unit, or you need individuals that are what Mark Andreessen described at his time at IBM as wild ducks. So there are these people who were allowed to go through the divisions and really innovate for IBM. They could pull people off their projects and bring them into theirs, and they had this great autonomy. They didn't have to play by the rules. Whereas the larger IBM org, people had to play by the IBM rules. Like, there was some kind of IBM playbook that people had to follow. And you wouldn't think that an innovative company like IBM was so rigid and rules based, but apparently like this was true. So a lot of legacy businesses, this isn't going to be allowed. Also, I think most people are busy at their jobs, so they don't have like an extra 20 to 40 hours per week to like suddenly become experts on prompt engineering, or now it's context engineering. So like, that's a new thing. Organizing and engineering around your context. So I think you do need to bring in outside people, and we haven't like suddenly made an investment in Palantir, but something like Palantir would make it easier. But I think it could also be internal, but you do need to hire for it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's an attitude thing. So it's like, you have to get in there, get into the processes, figure out what's needed, look through how it's manual. So like, you got to be in there. Like, Elon was data labeling like a couple weeks ago. So like, he was getting into the process, manually annotating some data for Tesla or XAI or whatever. So you really have to see how it works in order to automate it and make it better.
Yeah, and I think it takes humility. I mean, the older I get and the deeper into my career I get, I feel like I'm expert at certain things. Like like this is a bit of a bitter pill for me. Is like, I learned all these Excel hotkeys and everything like that, and like, that was a point of pride for me early in my career. Like, I would like sit down and just like do all this stuff. Like, things were formatting automatically, and I looked really smart. And so there's a bit of pride in that. And then like, come to just see like a lot of those tools are not going to be nearly as valuable going forward, because a lot of that stuff that I was doing, you could just get AI to do for you. And instead, like, I'm finding myself needing to get uncomfortable by not being an expert on this stuff anymore, and like diving into some stuff where I'm like a beginner at learning how to code and some of this stuff. So like, it takes humility, and it's uncomfortable, like learning new skills when you're already, pretty good at your existing job for a while like that. Like, that's not a thing that many workers even want to do. But I would just strongly encourage everyone to lean into that discomfort, because that's how you continue to grow as a professional. Yeah, it's tough.
I'm writing a chapter about this for a book that Randy Kirk and Brian Wang are organizing. So that'll be coming out. I don't know when it's coming out, but I just submitted my chapter for that. So
Are you writing it, or did AI write it?
I supervised.
You supervised. All right, nice. I wasn't trying to call you out. I'm just like wondering, like, writing
Yeah.
seems like it's one of those things that, is most easily replaced right now with the current tools.
Yeah,
So
so it was the chain of topics that I looked at, but then also curating what the most important points are, and then
yeah,
having it right for there, and based off of my experience, but also this MIT study and what we're seeing from Shai Winiger.
yeah. So there's been, I think, a bit of focus in the space. We talked about this last week about, okay, is this whole AI craze getting overhyped? We even spoke about the MIT study.
Mm,
Valuations might be getting out of hand. So this is something that's been on a lot of people's minds. I think it's probably why you're seeing a little skittishness in markets, today in these last couple of weeks. Anthropic today had this post, which I thought was pretty wild. So started 2025 at a $1 billion run rate revenue and passed 5 billion just 8 months later. So to be clear, that run rate is like a monthly figure annualized.
mhm.
And it says this makes Anthropic one of the fastest growing technology companies in history. So like going from 1 to 5 is actually pretty wild. I was pretty surprised by this. Now this doesn't mean they're suddenly profitable today or that their current
Right.
valuation necessarily is correct.
Mhm.
But I think what this shows is like not, it's extremely rare for companies at the $1 billion, even if you want to call it run rate, at the $1 billion
Yeah.
run rate level to be able to 5x in less than a year. Like that is actually wild. So I think a lot of the skepticism of like, oh, there's all these different LLMs and they're like, it's a race to the bottom and all that, and they don't have an economic or business plan that makes sense. Well, if they can 5x again and like actually be providing some value here, I think the investor story might swing to the other way, which is like, oh, these things are going to grow even faster and be even more profitable than we thought.
Yeah.
So I think it's still unclear which side wins, because like the cost base of these companies, including OpenAI, is still very high, and more to the point, the capex necessary to continue competing in this race is like extremely high. Those are the table stakes to compete in this data center arms race are like tens of billions. So which companies are able to continue to invest that level and have it be profitable? That still is an unanswered question. But I think that this was a shot in the arm, I think, of the AI bulls out there that said like, no, like these tools are generating so much value that like the business case will kind of coalesce later. What we need to do right now is just make the product as good as possible.
If you're an AI have that is getting value out of these large language models, part of the 5% that is getting economic value, you think it's underhyped.
Yeah.
You're happy to pay the current price for inference, and you would pay maybe even 10 times that amount for the inference. There's a lot of tasks that we're paying between 1 and 4 cents for that we would gladly pay a dime to 40 cents for, because otherwise we'd be paying someone to do it. So one of our business processes early on is someone will do some financial planning where we are looking at someone's finances from now to the point they die. That seems kind of extreme, but we make a plan for those things. We want to look at how much people are spending, all this stuff. So we gather all this data. For some clients, it could be 50 documents. And one of the steps in our process is to rename the files. So someone has to go into each file, open it, see what it is, and then rename it. You don't want to be the person that has to do that. So like that's something we're automating this week. So it's key to find these things in your business and implement as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think the way that you said that really struck with me. Like, if you're one of those 5% of companies that actually are getting value, like, yeah, you might actually be willing to pay 10x. So I think this is going to be one of those Pareto distributions where, like, yeah, a lot of companies like just do a terrible job implementing. And so yeah, they're not getting the value of a $200 a month ChatGPT subscription. But I'd say like, I don't know, from where I sit, I think it's way more valuable than like Bloomberg, which is what is that, like $5,000 a month or something like that to pay for a Bloomberg terminal these days.
Yeah.
So to me, I like there absolutely is a subset of the total population that would be willing to pay a lot more because of the value that they're getting out of these systems. So I'm definitely an AI optimist. I think there will be a massive increase in demand for tokens down the road. Like to me, that just seems like one of the things that's like an inevitable truth, which leads to an increase in like demand for GPUs, which leads to an increase in demand for energy. And I just like those trends are, I think, core to the way that we're thinking about investing right now.
Yep. Let's move on to what's next.
All right. So Secretary Chris Wright, the energy secretary, I don't know if you saw this post or if our viewers did. So even if you wrap the entire planet in a solar panel, I love that phrasing, in a solar panel. Yeah, just one panel that wraps around. You would only be producing 20% of global energy. One of the biggest mistakes politicians can make is equating the electricity, we're using Trump caps here, with energy. Man, like this honestly one of my biggest complaints about the Biden administration was just like the overt gaslighting, like over and over again, just like lying to us. And I'm like, this is the Trump administration just gaslighting us. That is like absolute insanity. So like you could actually reword that to say, even if we captured 100% of the, energy captured by the sun, we'd still need fossil fuels. And really what he's saying by that is, so here's this chart is a little kind of hard to see, but on the left here, we've got all the different fuel types. So it's like solar, wind, nuclear. Those are primarily electricity sources. Then you've got natural gas, which is like almost half going to electricity generation, then half going to, other like heating applications and industrial processes. And then biomass and petroleum, which is mostly for transportation. So his point is basically that of the electricity that you have, like that yellow bit there, like that makes up about 20% of the overall energy inputs, which completely ignores the fact that like it's extremely energy inefficient to use natural gas or coal and convert those from like their BTU state that nature put them in into usable electricity. So it's just like it's beyond stupid to play this like game that if we had abundant, low cost, carbon free electricity, that it wouldn't be good for humanity. So instead, like we need more coal. Like it is so dumb. And it's just total gaslighting. So for the energy secretary to be saying this, I just really lose a lot of respect for him and for what this administration is doing on the energy front.
It's really bad. Let's go back to that quote again. Like the first sentence is just patently false. So I think Elon Musk has said, like, if you take 1% of the surface area, I don't even think it's 1%, you could produce enough power to equal the amount of global energy that we're using now.
Of electricity, which is like the key differentiator here. Yeah. So like, yeah, it's true that if we, wrapped the entire Earth in solar panels, we'd still need some petroleum for some product from some like industrial processes and for some transportation applications. Like, okay, that's true, but like that's also somewhat irrelevant.
Like, who cares? But also if let's say we went to battery electric vehicles, if you go ahead and stop share, if you, instead of those farms that we're using to produce coal for ethanol fuel, you can produce the same amount of electricity with solar panels that are like 1/10 of the size of the acreage or something like that. Either it's a 1/10 or 1/20th the size of the acreage.
I think you said coal for ethanol, but you mean corn for ethanol, right?
Yeah, corn for ethanol. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's just one of the, like, everyone knows that is a boneheaded policy. Like it's not particularly helpful for the engines. Like it has lower gas mileage than gasoline. And we're dedicating massive amounts of our farmland to this like kind of dumb ethanol production that doesn't really have any clear benefit other than like increasing the cost of food. And then it like is a benefit to the farmers, obviously, because they're getting elevated pricing for the corn than would be the case otherwise. This just
even if you could generate gasoline from corn magically, it's still inefficient and bad policy.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just, this sort of stuff is just driving me insane. And it's kind of funny because like with the Biden administration, I remember thinking it was so dumb that they had Jennifer Granholm as the Secretary of Energy. And like Jigger Shaw, who's like actually an energy expert and knows what the hell he's talking about and has been in the industry, like worked underneath her. I was like, why do you have, the political appointee presiding over like the actual subject matter expert? Why don't we actually put the subject matter experts in charge of these industries or of these agencies? And like the Trump administration is just like, doing the same thing and gaslighting. So it's just frustrating.
Now, I also heard that this first time I heard this is on Jay Leno's Garage, the video that came out where Franz and Lars from Tesla were on there. And they said that coming for the HOA lanes in California, you're not going to be able to use the HOA lanes. Like how wrong is that? It's crazy.
What's going on in California?
Well, I think it's imposed by Trump administration, but still, like it's just crazy to me. Like you're penalizing this form of transportation that's going to end up being the superior technology.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think Tesla's going to compete and win on cost per mile, which is the metric. Like Elon's like magic power that he's always had is to like find that one key metric and just like, how do we reduce by an order of magnitude or more, that one key metric. And that drives like 2 decades of innovation, both at SpaceX and at Tesla. And now all of a sudden Starship is going to massively reduce the cost per kilogram to orbit, which is like obviously the key metric, but nobody was really phrasing it that way in the past. And now in transportation with Tesla, the dollars per mile, it's going to be, probably a 10x decrease in the actual cost per mile once Cybercab gets out at scale. And by the way, it'll be a better user experience. So ultimately that's going to win out, but these bad policies certainly don't help to accelerate that. So you also mentioned something in that Jay Leno's Garage, which so I hadn't seen it, but you were texting me yesterday, I think it was, that there was some discussion about FSD take rates in there, which is a topic that Tesla's been very silent on for about 5 years. So what were the nuggets that we heard there?
I don't have them memorized, but basically what Lars was saying was that FSD take rates are increasing. They're rather substantial for S and X. They always have been. So here is that it's upwards of 50 to 60% for S and X, and gone from single digit percentages on many models to the teens now. So thank you, Jordan, for that save.
Yeah, so the S and X is kind of interesting. Like those stats, I don't even really know what to make of them, because now with this like way that they're selling S and X currently, at least in the United States, it's like 100% attach rate essentially, because it's like this premium package or however they call it. So that must have been from time periods before that new pricing scheme rolled out, which is still pretty impressive, but on maybe 5,000 vehicles a quarter, it doesn't really move the needle. What I think is a lot more interesting is, if you're going from single digit, my kind of assumption was that 3Y globally were maybe like a 7 or 8% take rate. So that was what I had in the model before that this comment came. So for that to be going to teens is a very big jump. Like it's still small in the grand scheme of things. But to double FSD take rate, I think most people don't realize that there's like hundreds of millions of dollars in margin per quarter that comes from FSD. So if you're going to, double that from let's just say 300 million to 600 million, like that has the potential to really add up over time. So that's a bit of a, I don't know, like I'm trying to say dark horse, but that's like the wrong phrase. But it has the potential to really surprise on the upside, because most analysts are still not modeling out or making upside estimates for take rate increasing. And I've always advocated that I think people should do the harder path of trying to model that in, even though we don't have perfect information to do it.
Dark horse actually is the right phrase there, Matt. Is
it? Well, I always botch something.
Unforeseen boost.
Dark horse. I think I was thinking White Knight in my head, but I was like, that doesn't make sense.
It's like the underdog,
Underdog. Yeah, dark horse. You're right. Yeah. So this will be interesting. I'm excited to see where they go in disclosures, because I think if take rate increases substantially enough, or if they get enough subscribers, I think they're going to have to start releasing some stats on that, and I'm looking forward to that day.
We got some exciting images from Lathrop that, for whatever reason, they were out for a while and people really didn't notice these weird things hanging out in the parking lot. So we may be seeing the power pack. So these small containers, Tesla is working on something like it. I'm calling it the mini mega pack. So each mega pack has 24 battery modules. They're very large. And these mini mega packs have 3 of them. So essentially it's 1/8 the size of the mega pack. And maybe we could pause right there and talk, Matt, about the users of this product.
Yeah, so people might remember back in the day that there was Powerwall and Megapack, which is kind of where we are today, but there used to be this Power Pack, which was larger than a Powerwall but smaller than a Megapack, which is like for utility scale installations. But for like commercial and industrial kind of use cases, or let's say you're a medium-sized manufacturing business or something like that, there is absolutely utility in having a battery that is sized appropriate to your scale, the scale of your electric needs, either for like backup power. One example that comes to mind, I was back in my investment banking days, I was working with this small automotive supplier, and we're touring their facility, and they had a lot of these plastic extruders. So these things are literally melting down plastic pellets, and like they've got this like disc rotational drive thing that pushes them into some form, where they'll get formed into some shape that the ultimate customer needs. I was talking to them, and they said, one of the worst things that can happen to us is if we lose power, because then all the plastic starts hardening inside their
molds.
Not the molds, whatever the thing is that was like extruding it out, but it just like destroys their equipment. So it's like a massive problem. Like they were talking to they had to like run and scramble to Home Depot one time to like get generators, and it was like they were like totally panicked about this. So having a battery in that type of application size to a small medium-sized business makes a lot of sense. And there's numerous reasons why something like that would be helpful. That's just one example that I came across. But you can help lower your utility bills that way. You can potentially sell some power, some grid services back to the grid. You can get a lower utility rate by capping your capacity charges, which is your maximum draw in a year. So one other way I think a lot of people don't realize that industrial utility rates are set is like the utility will literally look at your entire usage over the past year and say like, okay, you've got these daily spikes, and then seasonally you've got some spikes, and then this one day you had this one incident up here, And so what we're going to do is charge you a rate for this maximum amount of capacity that you drew over the past year.
Right.
And it could have been a 5-minute spike or something like that, and you get charged for that maximum draw that you ever had. So if you can actually have some smart software to lower the maximum draw that you ever have over the course of a year, then you can actually very meaningfully lower the capacity charge on your utility bill, which is a very big deal for these customers. So that's my energy rant about the type of customer that this can be really helpful for.
So Matt, on that basis alone, is there infinite demand for Power Pack 3?
At the risk of a little hyperbole, I would say that there is. Like, I'm just so bullish on this space now. Elon is infamous for his infinite demand, comments on the vehicle side. But I do think, even though we're seeing like massive exponential growth in mega pack deployments, I think we're just scratching the surface there, and even more so on the small to medium sized business, commercial and industrial use cases. That's a market that has not even been tapped like at all, really. And so I think there's quasi infinite demand there.
So I'm guessing one Power Pack 3 is better than 36 Powerwalls.
For sure. So I did the math on this a while ago, and I think the Powerwalls were selling for something like $500 per kilowatt per kilowatt hour, whereas the mega pack right now is like half that. So it wouldn't be economical, presumably, to buy 30 Powerwalls and install them. But if you've got a larger type of product that sure, it'll be harder to install, but on a $1 per kilowatt hour installed basis, maybe it ends up being, I don't know, $350 or $300, something like that. That can significantly increase the TAM for battery storage in general, and be better for the grid, be better for the customers. So yeah, I think there's a lot of upside there.
And you probably have one control unit, probably more difficult to orchestrate 36 Powerwalls. So they do orchestrate thousands of them for power outages in California. But, on one site, whether it's a hospital, a factory, a school, corporate headquarters, or whatever, it makes sense to have one Power Pack there. So I was really excited to see that. It's possible these aren't Power Packs. It might be equipment that goes external to the Mega Pack, but we haven't really seen those before. I had
another theory. I don't think this is what it is, but we know that Tesla's been stockpiling transformers. So possibly could be some transformers or other electrical supporting equipment. Okay. But I think we've seen those unwrapped previously. So the fact that they're wrapped makes me think that those would actually be power packs. Is that what we're calling them? Yeah, power packs.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the car of the year.
Let's do it.
So I think it's a huge feather in the cap for Tesla whenever Edmunds or Car and Driver name Tesla car of the year or best car they've driven, and partly because Tesla does not pay them for this honor, whereas a lot of other car makers, I suspect, pay for like car of the year awards, things like that. We just seen it happen year over year, allegedly, Matt.
Allegedly. Well, it's true. Like Tesla is notoriously uncooperative with groups like this. Like, ask for a comment and respond with a poop emoji or something like that. A lot of the car makers will actually deliver a car, like let them use it free of charge and something like that. Tesla might do that, but it also would not surprise me at all if they're not even doing that. So Edmunds has to actually pay to like rent one of these. Not sure exactly what the arrangement is, but yeah, Tesla certainly is not, advertising, within Edmunds or anything like that. So I think they're, for them to get those accolades, despite how hostile or at least uncooperative they are with these, kind of legacy publications, is pretty compelling. And honestly, like, it's true. Like the new Model Y is so good. I think a lot of the car buying public still doesn't realize just how good it is. And you go and actually test drive one, and it's an insane value for money that they're getting, and especially if you're subscribing to FSD for $99 a month. I mean, that is just an amazing value proposition.
The cost to own the Model Y is equal to the Toyota RAV4. So you think about, the technology, the cost to fuel it, maintain it, the safety, the fun factor. Like, you're gonna kick that RAV4's ass at the line every time, even with like your
entry model,
even on chill mode.
It is surprising. Like, chill mode is actually not that chill if you push it.
Yeah, so it's a far superior vehicle compared to the RAV4, and your cost per mile over the full ownership experience is equal. More people need to know about it. Tesla had this great new so I missed it. I missed the lead. Like, what the thing I loved the most about the Master Plan 4 was the video that came with it.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool video.
Yeah, it gave me all the feels. I feel like Tesla may start advertising soon. I know I'm not allowed to say that. Please don't unsubscribe. But these videos, they're punchier. They're a little more impactful as well. And they seem like ready for prime time. They seem to be building up to something.
They clearly have amazing video editing capabilities. I mean, like the stuff that they do like this and just post randomly on X, or like the stuff they put in their like in-person meetings that they do from time to time. They're like rock star videos. And you're right. Yeah. They give us the feels. So they're so good at striking that chord, and they refuse to do it publicly, which is so frustrating. They're like only, striking the chord with the people who already are only going to buy Teslas for the rest of their life, or are hardcore nerds and investors. So yeah, I'm hopeful that they'll get a bit more ambitious and try to push it more publicly, but they don't seem to be doing that. And by the way, like, I know that this might be a sore topic for a lot of people, but let's not forget that Elon was talking about 20 million vehicles by 2030, not too long ago. We just kind of quietly like backed away from that without saying anything. But why don't we actually try? Like, I'm sure we won't actually get there at this point, but why don't we see if we can sell, I don't know, 3 million units next year and 5 the year after that, by, trying to push demand as high as it will go. To me, like, that's focused on the company's mission, and just good for the planet, good for shareholders. And if you believe in the autonomous future, those are more vehicles that are going to be Robotaxi ready at whenever they can flip that switch. So to me, that the fact that we slowed down production because demand wasn't there, and we didn't try to do anything to push demand, other than like cut cost or cut price, like that's I think one of the biggest strategic mistakes that Tesla has made. And it's not just like for margins or like all the MBA reasons that I wish they would do it, but it's like, it's actually mission, and it's mission aligned.
Yeah. Well, Matt, you're not smarter than Elon Musk, nor am I, nor do we have the information they have. But I'm in alignment with you. I don't think like these legacy crossovers should sell at all compared to Tesla, and especially premium crossovers. I know, some people are picky about the Tesla look or the interior, but really, who cares once you get in the car? And, we all have these smartphones that don't have keyboards on them. And that's essentially what the dash of the Tesla is. But like, for some reason, people want the equivalent of smartphones with keyboards, or clamshells when they get in their car. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't jive. And I think people need to understand the difference. Talking about some understanding here, you might need to help me out with my wife. I may need to go back to Austin for the Robotaxi because Gail Alfar got a special Robotaxi ride. I don't know if they're bringing this to all rides in Austin, but let's roll the clip.
Oh wow.
So she had a safety monitor that is actually the driver. This was in Austin.
This is a first.
They seem to be prepared to take over, obviously, but
Freeway, first time.
on the highway, it's much more dangerous as far as potential fatalities than the fender benders that happen on city streets. And
Yeah, so
Gail Alfar in Austin, Texas, ATX. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think in our lived experience, FSD performs near flawlessly on the highways. So like on the one hand, it's like, okay, they've already solved that one. Like, why do we need to have the safety monitor in the actual driver's seat if we're going on the highway? Mm-hmm. On the other hand, if there is a mix up on the highways, like that's when the consequences can be way more severe, meaning death or just like serious injury, right. Just because you're going at such higher speeds. So, I think it's prudent for them to be, overly safety cautious, like Elon said on the last earnings call. They probably have all the data, I would think, to know that they don't need to be doing that right now. But, some fluke issue happens. I think it's good to have that safety monitor there. There was one thing I posted about on last week. I did 8 hours on FSD, and there was just an issue where there's like one of those tire strips, in the middle of the road that like some semi's tire had flipped out, had strung out. I'm pretty sure FSD would have just avoided it, but like no reason to take a chance on that because that could be a pretty bad accident or cause serious damage to the car. So I just took over and worked around it that way. If I was a passenger, I would kind of want to know that the safety monitor did the same thing.
Yeah.
Just to prevent a potential issue like that. So I honestly would have trusted FSD to do it, but like with one of those things where it's just like, hey, there's no reason to kind of risk it at this point. Tesla probably would get that intervention data and see it, and can make the judgment call on whether it's safe enough for those types of situations for the computer to handle it. But when I don't have the counterfactual, that Tesla would have on like what was the computer actually thinking at that time and what was it planning to do.
Yeah.
That's something I just rather have Tesla tell us when it's ready to do that.
Mm-hmm. We've seen a video of a Waymo going on the highway. I don't know if they're doing it all the time now in San Francisco, but they at least tested it once without a driver. And I think it was in a customer car, but we don't know. It'll be a big unlock for Tesla and Waymo to allow driving on the highways. Need to research this soon, but Waymo's, what we've heard is that they're getting into accidents once every 133,000 miles, which is not good.
That's not great, no.
So humans get into reported accidents once every 500,000 miles or once every 500,000 miles. Well, what happens is people don't report most fender benders. So you get in a fender bender, you both get out of the car, you look at it, you might do one of these, and if there's something that looks like a mark, and see if the mark comes out, or maybe the mark doesn't even come out, but there's no like dent. And then you're like, well, who cares? And then you both move on and it doesn't get reported. So Omar had this really interesting, curious thought, which was looking at Waymo's reported accidents. They have to file with the regulator an accident report. And what he's found is that a lot of the accidents are the Waymo getting rear-ended or backed into, like almost happened to the Tesla Robotaxi with the UPS truck in the first week. So it's a lot of these accidents are being caused by the human. Many of them are where there's a human driver that's repositioning the car or whatever. One was a human driver drove it into a garage, and the car was too tall with the LiDAR, and scraped the LiDAR off the roof of the car. So these things are being caused by humans. So what I intend to do is, if I can, automate this, download all the accident reports, and create a study where we show the percentages that are caused by human versus caused by the Waymo.
That is interesting. So even if a lot of them are caused by humans, it seems odd that like, are humans just being more reckless around Waymos then? Like is that a logical conclusion that you could potentially draw, assuming the data kind of backs up what you're implying?
I think that's part of it. So I think they do try to get away with more around the Waymo, because they think the Waymo is going to be more forgiving or timid. But I also think it's this reporting issue where Waymo must report every accident. They must report every fender bender, whereas humans don't. I've been in at least 2 fender benders that were not reported.
Yeah, I was actually in one crossing the border into Canada, like literally right about to go through Border Patrol. This lady hit me in the back, and I'm like, there's nowhere to pull over. Like, the damage isn't that minimal. And she's like, it's fine. And like Border Patrol agents or whatever are like right there. I'm like, I guess I'll just handle this like dent in my bumper, because there's like literally no way to handle this right now. So yeah, I think you're right. Like, the reported accidents are probably a lot lower, or a lot higher than the reported incidents are a lot lower than the actual.
And when it comes to selling your car, it's expected that at a certain number of miles you're going to have dents. So most people don't care. There's some people are really anal and want to have that perfect car, but most people don't care. Yep.
Yeah, you're right. It's like your expectations are like linearly related to the miles.
So I love the Curious Thought by Omar, Homar's blog, and I'm going to, my intention is to dig into the data and find out what it tells us.
Let's do it. Free the data and set your mind free. Or what is it?
That was the guy who went like
Ben Sullins, I think, was his thing.
He was highlighting Tesla like crazy, but then he felt like he needed to grow bigger, so then he started pooping on Tesla to grow his audience more.
Well, he also, I remember watching him. I watched all of his stuff like back in 2019. And I remember he would say like, oh, I don't invest in Tesla because financial markets are just so manipulated. Like, the little guy can't win. And I remember just like screaming. I was like, if you just like buy and hold a like transformational company, then like, who cares if like a hedge fund rips you off for like thousandth of a penny on like on the bid ask spread or something like. So he just like had this completely incoherent worldview, and that's why he wasn't invested in Tesla. And then when it like rallied and everybody in his community got wealthy and he did not, I think he turned pretty sour also. At least that was my impression from kind of watching him over those years. But yeah, I never did like his tagline of like, free the data and your mind is free, or whatever the heck that was.
All right, so we talked a lot about AI and chatted about the master plan, some other things. Power Pack 3, I think would be a great product if Tesla introduces that. Who knows? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's some transformers or stockpiling, whatever. Markets were down a little bit today, almost across the board. Palantir was up. So we'll see. He's Matt Smith. I'm Bradford Ferguson. We're with Rebellionaire, and bye for now.